We've also seen changes around renters' rights and compliance. Now, these do vary by state.
Property investment is about building that long-term financial freedom, and that's exactly what we're here to help people achieve.
What do today's property investors need to know? I'm here with Flaherty, Senior Economist at REA Group, and Westpac Home Loan Specialist Kayleigh Watkins, diving into what 2025 is looking like for property investors. Let's start by discussing whether investors are currently entering or leaving the market. And what is the data telling us from an investor perspective?
Well, it's been a very interesting few years for investors. We saw a lot of investors selling out of the market during the pandemic. We're now starting to see the reverse of that. So year on year, we've seen a pretty strong rise in investor activity in most states. Investor loans are up over 20% in New South Wales, in Queensland, in South Australia. In WA, they're actually up over 30%. Victoria's been a bit slower to make a comeback. Investor loans are up about 10%, and we're actually continuing to see more investors selling off than buying in that market.
So what are some of the regulatory changes that have affected property investors in the last couple of years?
We have seen some pretty major changes in recent years. One of the biggest ones, of course, is land tax thresholds, which have been lowered in some states, in particular Victoria. We've also seen changes around renters' rights and compliance. Now, these do vary by state, and every state has different regulations.
So focusing on that land tax piece and the changes there, Kayleigh, what are some of the essential things that property investors should know?
Yeah, Alice. So one of the big things is that land tax varies state by state. Secondly, it's important to understand that land tax includes tax-free thresholds and exemptions. So these can vary significantly depending on factors such as the value of the land and what it's used for. So for example, if it's residential, commercial, agricultural. The rules differ from state to state as well. So it's essential to know what applies in your location. So doing your research is absolutely key.
Absolutely. But on that research, Kayleigh, what are your tips for checking out a location to invest in?
Yeah, so considering how the location will perform in both the short and long term is a really good idea. From the short term perspective, you can use Westpac's property market research tool on our website. You can search by suburb or property address, and it gives you an idea of how much rental income you could earn and the potential rental yield. So that means the percentage of money you make from renting out the property. It's a really great place to start your research. For the long term though, think about what might make the property more valuable over time. So things like being close to transport, schools, hospitals, or future infrastructure plans. These things could help the property grow in value and help you earn more from your investment.
And should governments be encouraging more investor activity?
Look, it's really important that governments set policies that encourage all buyer types. We do need investors. Around a third of Australians are renters, and about 90% of the homes that are rented are owned by private landlords. At the same time, of course, that balance I spoke about, it's really important. So we need people to be able to buy their first home as well. So making sure that policies don't overly favour one buyer type at the expense of the other can ensure that we've got a diverse range of housing availability in Australia.
Oh, completely. And now looking ahead for the rest of the year and beyond, what are the key market factors that investors should be keeping their eyes on?
Well, one of the biggest ones, of course, is interest rates. The Reserve Bank has lowered the cash rate a couple of times already this year, and there's a potential for further cuts in the end of the year. When we see those rates come down, that can make borrowing more affordable. And we know that when that happens, all else equal, we typically see property prices increase. I think keeping an eye on what kinds of initiatives and demand factors are out there is also really important. So it's not just about what the market's doing as a whole. Every suburb is its own market. Do your research, look at who's buying, who's selling in different areas and why, and look at what the local economic factors are.
Kayleigh, how are you supporting your property investment clients in this market?
So we can provide insights like suburb trends, past sales and estimated rental income through the Westpac property market research tool. But more than that, our team is here to support clients in assessing the risk, planning their next move with confidence. And at the end of the day, property investment is about building that long-term financial freedom. And that's exactly what we're here to help people achieve.
Well, that all sounds pretty great to me. Look, thank you both so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed it and we appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Alice.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Buyer's Handbook. Join us next time for more answers on the topics that matter most. For more help with your property journey, head to the Westpac How to Buy Hub on realestate.com.au. Conditions, credit criteria, fees and charges apply. Residential lending is not available to non-Australian resident borrowers. This information is general in nature and has been prepared without taking your personal objectives, circumstances and needs into account. You should consider the appropriateness of the information to your own circumstances and, if necessary, seek appropriate professional advice.
Real Talk acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, air and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present.